Okay. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources of Ghana, Honorable Samuel Abujinapo, has organized this ministerial event to discuss the theme, Accelerating Forest and Nature Finance Towards 1.5 degrees centigrade. Ghana identifies the urgent need for climate finance, and it was just yesterday that Ghana launched its country package for forests, nature, and climate under the theme Resilient Ghana, under the distinguished leadership of the President of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. This package positions Ghana as the first country to sign an emissions reductions payment agreement with Emergent under the LEAF coalition, aiming to generate $50 million. And today, the Minister is hosting the event to address the urgent need for climate finance and to share lessons learned, joined by the Minister for Environment and Energy of Costa Rica, the DRCs, yes, please. Thank you, Minister. The DRC's Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. Okay. Yes. The CEO and the founder of Emergent Forest Finance Accelerator. Thank you very much, Aaron. And notably, before I ask for statements, Ghana and Costa Rica are both Forest Carbon Partnership Facility countries that have received results-based payments. So I will begin to call our distinguished guests up to the podium, after which I will invite them to give their round of statements. Honorable Minister, please. Your audience. Yes. Minister of Environment of Ghana. I also must acknowledge that the Minister of Environment for Ghana, Mr. Kokufi is also here. Please can we acknowledge his presence? Thank you for coming, sir. Thank you. So next, can I invite the Minister of Environment and Energy at Costa Rica, Honorable Frank Tattenbach, and the founder and CEO of Emergent, Mr. Aaron Bloomgarden. Thank you. So Ghana's Honorable Minister for Lands and Natural Resources will provide a statement on Ghana's progress and the vision for entering the voluntary carbon market. Honorable Minister, thank you.
Ghana's Minister for Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovation, Costa Rica's Minister for Environment, whom we are very happy to have here, Chief Executive Officer of Emergent, Chairman of Ghana's Parliamentary Select Committee on Lands and Forestry, and other members of Parliament herein gathered, Excellencies, members of Ghana's delegation, conference delegates, my dependable Deputy Minister responsible for lands and forestry, leadership of Ghana Manganese Company Limited, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all once again on behalf of the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, to Ghana's Pavilion, and I thank you for honoring our invitation to this high-level ministerial event on the theme, quote, accelerating forest and nature finance towards 1.5 degrees Celsius, end quote. Yesterday, at this same venue, we were privileged to have President Akufo-Addo address us on leveraging nature-based solutions towards the 1.5 degrees Celsius target, where he reiterated Ghana's commitment to the Glasgow Leaders' Declaration on Forest and Land Use, and actions being taken by Ghana to realize the ambitious target of halting and reversing forest loss and land degradation by 2030, with special emphasis on Ghana's country package dubbed, quote, Resilient Ghana, end quote. Today, ladies and gentlemen, this event, we focus on financing nature-based climate actions towards this goal. Excellencies, global deforestation and degradation continue to threaten the achievement of the Paris goal. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature reports that over half of tropical forests worldwide have been destroyed since the mid-20th century, and currently about a hectare of tropical forest is destroyed completely or degraded every second. These forest destructions do not only release greenhouse gases and threaten the survival of many terrestrial species, they also affect the lives of some 1.6 billion people whose livelihoods depend on forest resources. Regrettably, more than half of these people are among the world's poorest. On the other hand, and even more significantly, protecting these forests can provide a third of the solution to the climate fight. They protect biodiversity, sequester carbon, support livelihoods, and promote sustainability. To maximize climate benefits of forests, therefore, we must conserve, restore, and rehabilitate them. We cannot, however, do this without the needed finance. It is estimated that some $393 billion is required annually to save the world's forests. And therefore, we need close to $300 billion annually to tackle this very consequential issue. Unfortunately, the tropical forest, which is home to about 45% of this forest, is inhabited largely by developing countries who are mostly affected by the climate change due to the lack of resilient infrastructure and systems. While local communities stand to benefit from the protection of these forests, we cannot but agree with Professor Andrew Balfour of the Cambridge University that, and I quote, international gains from the conservation of this biodiversity hotspot far outweighs the gains to local communities directly involved in their conservation, end quote. It is therefore of utmost importance that we incentivize local communities who depend on these forests for livelihood to protect and conserve them. Unfortunately, the protection and conservation of these forests of global importance have been left for forest countries to deal with. In Ghana, over the past few years, we have had to expend our limited resources on the protection of our forests and the implementation of our aggressive afforestation and reforestation program, including the flagship Green Ghana Day, under which some 42 million trees have been planted over the last 3 years, and the Ghana Forest Plantation Strategy, under which we have cultivated some 690,000 hectares of degraded forest in just 5 years. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the urgency of climate finance generally, and forest and nature finance specifically, must be amplified as loud as we can. It is the most effective tool to achieving the 1.5 degrees Celsius target set in the Paris Agreement. We must therefore expedite action on exploring multiple channels to source finance for forest and nature climate action. Admittedly, some of these instruments exist, such as the Green Climate Fund, the Global Environment Facility, Forest Carbon Partnership Facility, and the Voluntary Carbon Markets, which are making impacts in various areas. In Ghana, for example, under the Ghana Red Plus strategy, we have received resource-based payment for the forest from the Forest Carbon Partnership Facility for the Ghana Cocoa Red Plus program, as well as a grant from the Green Climate Fund for the implementation of the Ghana Shared Landscape Emission Reduction Projects. Funding for other interventions under the Red Plus strategy, targeting the transitional zone, the coastal zone, and the Volta zone are, however, still lacking. Under the Ghana Cocoa Red Plus program, we are proud to announce emission reductions of 972,456 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent for the first accounting period between June and December 2019, which has been verified and validated, generating results-based payment of $4,862,280 United States dollars. This payment is currently being distributed with the use of an all-inclusive benefit sharing plan to local people, giving them the most significant share of this amount. Some of the beneficiaries are here with us, ladies and gentlemen, and have been sharing their experiences with the fund and other partners. Additionally, many cocoa farmers have benefited from alternative livelihood interventions and livelihood support from the Forest Carbon Partnership Facility, safeguarding the forest along with other natural resources. With funding from the bank, robust forest governance structures have been created in areas we term hotspot intervention areas, which have uncompromisingly played significant roles in the reduction of illegal logging and illegal mining, among other forest illegalities. Clearly, ladies and gentlemen, climate finance truly works and has the potential to support action towards a 1.5 degrees Celsius world. That is why we must scale up climate finance, and particularly forest and nature finance, to achieve greater impact. It is in this respect that at COP26 in Glasgow, Ghana signed on to the Lowering Emissions by Accelerating Forest Finance LEAF Coalition, as well as the Glasgow Leaders' Declaration on Forest and Land Use. And at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, we joined the government of the United Kingdom to launch the Forest and Climate Leaders' Partnership, which Ghana co-chairs with the United States, to provide a functional vehicle to achieve the Glasgow Leaders' Declaration on halting and reversing forest loss and land degradation by 2010, while delivering sustainable development and promoting an inclusive rural transformation. I am happy to announce that at this conference, COP28 in Dubai, we are also signing a binding emissions reduction purchase agreement with the LEAF Coalition to give effect to the letter of intent we signed in Glasgow and to ensure some financing for forest protection and conservation. With our experience in the implementation of the Ghana Cocoa Red Plus program, we are confident that we will deliver emission reductions to secure payments. Honorable Ministers, Members of Parliament, Excellencies, the voluntary carbon markets also stand as a transformative strategy in catalyzing forest finance towards the ambitious 1.5 degrees Celsius target. By engaging in these markets, we unlock finance driven by the carbon sequestration capabilities of our forested landscapes. These resources can be strategically directed to support ongoing interventions dedicated to sustainability and harness the nuanced intricacies of forest ecosystems. Again, these funds can be used to pioneer groundbreaking initiatives which provide benefits to local communities and people. We understand that achieving this goal requires a multi-stakeholder approach, and Ghana, as a respected member of the international community, is eager to engage with governments, non-governmental organizations, the private sector, and local communities in this collective effort. I must add, and do so forcefully, that in all our actions, transparency and accountability are key to success. We should establish robust monitoring and reporting mechanisms to track the impact of investments, ensuring that every pound spent contributes meaningfully to our shared climate objectives and reach beneficiaries, especially indigenous people and local communities. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Forest and nature finance are sine qua non to the 1.5 degrees Celsius goal. There have been many pledges and commitments, with some even forgotten, while the climate crisis worsens. We have had the unpleasant occasion of reminding developed nations of the $100 billion United States climate finance pledged in Copenhagen at COP15, almost 1.5 decades ago. As we undertake the first global stocktake at this conference, we must all go back to our commitments and pledges and work to redeem them. The just ended Africa Climate Summit, held in Nairobi, Kenya, also wrapped up with a total of $23 billion in new funding commitments, which include $3 billion annually for adaptation as part of the United States President's Emergency Plan for Adaptation and Resilience Intervention. But I dare say, until these commitments are fulfilled, until we upscale financing for forest and nature-based climate actions, until we channel these resources to the right people and right places, that is, indigenous peoples and local communities, at the right time, which is now, we cannot realize our goals, and we cannot certainly be taken seriously when it comes to our commitments to fight climate change. I am hopeful and optimistic that this event will mark a turning point for accelerated investment in forest and nature finance to build capacities towards safeguarding and managing our forest ecosystems. We must brainstorm constructively, marked by shared commitments and dedication to action. We must identify barriers to sources and find innovative solutions to them. And we must be resolute in mobilizing finance to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius world. We in Ghana, under the distinguished and able leadership of President Akufo-Addo, remain committed to this cause, and we are ready to build the necessary partnerships to deliver on the ambitious goal. Honorable Ministers, Honorable MPs, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, needless to point out in conclusion that the time to act with speed and effectiveness against climate change is now. The time for partnership and collaboration in ramping up forest and nature-based climate action is indeed now. I reference the instructive and inspiring words of the United Nations Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, when he profoundly said, and I quote, "The climate emergency is a race we are losing, but it is a race we can win," end quote. Let us therefore get on with this noble undertaking to save our planet. I thank you for your attention.
The Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources very thoroughly and competently outlining the problem and the solution, plus the actions that Ghana is taking with its partners to accelerate finance, forest and nature finance for Ghana. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you so much. Next, we have the Minister of Environment and Energy for Costa Rica, Honorable Franz Tattenbach, who will discuss Costa Rica's efforts in championing payments for ecosystem services and the impact of climate finance on the economy. Honorable Minister, your audience.
Thank you, Honorable Ministers, Your Excellency, Minister Yanapu from Ghana. Very impressive what is being done now and all the impressive finance that you're getting done, and I am very impressed with them. We are accelerating already climate finance, and these first steps is what show it. So I congratulate you in all the country finance package, the voluntary markets, the environmental, the result-based payments, and I even heard adaptation as part of the package, so congratulations. I want to share a little bit of our experience in Costa Rica with a system that we call environmental service payment as a climate finance mechanism. We initiated our funding many years ago. It was done based on more than 20 years ago, maybe, based on a fossil fuel tax. It's a small, very small fossil fuel tax. So in Costa Rica. And however, the global community should share the cost of mitigating greenhouse gases, and we know it. And we know why, because it's very efficient. The reason Costa Rica is involved in the FCLP, dear Minister, is because we really are fighting to get the 1.5 alive. We really would like to have the acceleration on this possible contribution of detaining deforestation globally and forest finance. And I think you've proven that it can be done. Costa Rica proven that it can be done. We want to make sure that we contribute through the FCLP, which Ghana is co-chair and Costa Rica is a participant, that we can improve vastly on that. The program that we started in Costa Rica has accessed different sources of funding as well. We recently accessed the RED Plus result-based payment initiative as well. So we're both RED Plus countries based on result-based. And at the same time, not as completed yet, but we are negotiating voluntary carbon markers with the LEAF coalition. Costa Rica has done this in the last 20 years. We have stopped deforestation. And we have stopped it for a while already. But we did this without impinging on agricultural productivity. We like to say that we managed to decouple agricultural productivity from deforestation. At the same time that we were investing in forest conservation, we were devoting significant resources. We did not sacrifice the increase in productivity from agriculture, but agriculture stopped moving into the forest. What we changed was the terms of trade, the terms of exchange, if you wish, between what forest was worth and our agricultural land was worth. When you start recognizing the forest value in biodiversity and carbon credits, you made that land more valuable, and therefore it can compete better against agriculture, and that's what was achieved. Agriculture also got intensified because it stated in the better lands for agriculture and forests in the better land for forest. We also kept increasing our export value from agriculture, so it never sacrificed one for the other, but we kept our forests and made them grow. We came from a 25% forest coverage in the late 80s now to over 60% forest coverage in the country with this program that value forest. And lately, we are now perceiving the benefits of not only the agricultural sector, but a tourist sector based on the conservation, based on the notion of ecotourism, and the whole country benefits from this. And that's where we are now, with conservation of nature is part and parcel of Costa Rica's benefit. Was this done with adequate benefit sharing? Yes. Yes, it has done with adequate benefit sharing. We used to recognize the dwellers of the forest and the owners of the forest directly. We also now are working with indigenous people which own and control quite a good portion of the forest, and there we have developed very extensive cases of previous and informed consent to develop forest programs for the indigenous people forest. And this is done also under the programs of payment for results. So we have included. Hello. Hi. Nice to we have included also the forest for the indigenous population with payments for results under a benefit sharing schemes and the forest lands management plans. Lately, we're going to have the red plus carbon, but now what are we going to use these resources from the payment for results and the carbon credits from the voluntary markets, from the Leaf Coalition? We're going to do it for expanding our beneficiary base. Next year, for the first time, we will have enough resources, first time in 20 years, we will have, or more than 20 years, we'll have enough resources to reach everyone in the country who would like to have a forest conservation benefits program for the first time. That's full coverage, and that happened thanks to payment for results and also the voluntary market that are coming on board that we are signing with Mr. Aaron, hopefully soon. Also, we are expanding we're prioritizing for the first time biodiversity, and this is important. A lot of the push for including forest in the climate fight has been because of the co-benefits of protecting biodiversity. And so now we're moving with recognizing biodiversity differently. So we recognize carbon, but we recognize where there is more biodiversity a little bit differently. And we're going to start playing with the concept of biodiversity credits to an extent. It's experimental. Costa Rica likes to play with new things, and we're going to be pioneer on this, and we're going to be attaching these biodiversity credits so that the people entering into an agreement with the government that they're going to protect the forest, and when we tell them, okay, if you protect the forest, you're protecting biodiversity, and that's normal. But if you want to go biodiversity plus, we say, well, we want you to acknowledge, one, that you understand the Costa Rican legislation on biodiversity. Two, that you understand the international legislation that Costa Rica has ascribed to, like the Nagoya Protocol. Three, that you understand that there could be some sharing of benefits that will accrue to the government and to you, because we have been declaring this up front. And then we might be recognizing more values. It's very experimental. Maybe a little bit crazy at the beginning, but since people are still skirting around how to recognize biodiversity credits, Costa Rica is moving this way with it this year. Okay. 2024 will be the first year that we recognize explicitly biodiversity with an special edge of a contractual basis with the forest owners. We're also going to be, of course, paying according to the availability of funds. And this is very important. The reason that we can pay for everyone next year that wants to is because we have got some climate finance from the Green Climate Fund, from the World Bank Carbon Forestry Fund, from the voluntary markets that we're getting from, and from a small relatively, but large for us, fossil fuel tax that we have at home. Those are the sources of finance, and some voluntary payments as well. We're also very happy to share how much we have advanced in having a very, took a lot of time, but we had a very big construct on how to share benefits with the indigenous communities that control forests, and this was very well done. It was done under the auspices of the UNDP and the United Nations RED Plus safeguards, which are very good. I mean, but they're cumbersome, but they're important, and we think it's worthwhile doing it. Now we have 24 of the 24 in the country have signed that they are willing to work with a RED Plus program, and this is all of them. So this is very significant that we reach that level of work, if you wish, of explaining and sharing and their preoccupations and coming to a common ground agreement of how benefit sharing is all about. And finally, I would like to say that definitely additional climate finance is needed, but it's also needed because it's a way of accelerating reaching to 1.5%. It is very well spent finance. It is the most effective spent finance that you could have, both for reaching the 1.5. Most of what we're doing in detaining deforestation is probably and most likely out of the NDCs, so it's extra to achieve there to get to 1.5, number one. Number two, it has tremendous co-benefits both on adaptation and on biodiversity conservation, and as a consequence, what a good way to accelerate climate finance than accelerating climate finance for forestry conservation. And at the same time, we think that it's also important to be transforming food production systems so that we are not afraid that forest conservation is going to be impinging into agricultural lands. Costa Rica proved that is not the case, and actually could be beneficial to more productivity. And finally, forest management is also very important. Costa Rica is participating in a group of the FCLP, dear Minister, also in use of wood in construction. We think is important with forest management. I think forest needs all that it needs: adaptation funding if it comes, carbon funding, biodiversity funding, and sustainable use when it is adequate, appropriate, and could be done. So thank you very much for all your attention.
Please join me in thanking the Minister of Environment and Energy of Costa Rica for sharing with us some of their lessons in championing payments for ecosystem services and the impact of climate finance on their economy. I understand the Minister may have to leave. You can come in. Thank you, Honourable Minister. It is my singular pleasure now to welcome the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate for the DRC, Honorable Stephanie Bumbo. Yes. She will provide a statement on the DRC's country package focusing on peatland. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Bonsoir. Don't want to say how to say hello in French here. That's not. Bonjour. Okay. Ça va? Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Honorable, for inviting me for this session. I'm happy to be there, and thank you for your passion. Thank you for coming to this event. Under the country package of FCLP, this is a very interesting, dynamic forum that we had so far to discuss on climate since negotiations started. And we are very, my president, the President Felix Tshisekedi, didn't come here for the election because of the election going on in the country. So he couldn't come. He will be happy to be here and to meet His Excellency, the President of Ghana, and he's sending all his regard to you and grateful, especially for Ghana's leadership and that FCLP country package, FCLP in general. It was a pleasure for us to work with you and to work with Rosalind and the Honorable Minister. Thank you very much for leadership. It has been a great journey that we just started. The spirit of FCLP is really what your president and my president, the president of Ghana, I mean, because no one is, all of you are not Ghanaian, I'm sorry, but the president of Ghana and my president is really working on. It's to have this kind of African ownership behind the finance. This is what we are missing a lot here, and I will really stress on that, because if you are a negotiator of UN nation here from Africa, you need to make the statement very strongly to say that the finance on climate must be under African vision. It shouldn't be a finance where they are telling us what to do and how to do with that finance, and then how to trigger the finance. So it's very important, and then I'm glad under the leadership of UK, US, and Ghana, we had this kind of spirit under FCLP and country package. We have been honored to have this country package of $62 million under FCLP to this COP. We have been discussing only for 3 months, which is a huge accomplishment to negotiate finance under climate initiative. So the vision of the DRC behind the country package is to structure the carbon market around the peatland. You know, the peatland, it takes 10,000 years to build the peatland. If some of you are aware about what's happening in Indonesia when they dry out their peatlands, now they are thinking about moving Jakarta, a capital, to another city because of the flooding. So peatland is very important, not only for our country, for the entire world. It's a home of 30 gigaton of carbon, the carbon emission. And under the peatland, we have a tremendous reserve of oil. So you can be the peatland in our country, we're protecting it, but we are all under danger on the peatland. The peatland is the length of the road. You absorb all the carbon credits of the road and then stock it. So it's doing 2 things at the same time, sequestrating and stocking the carbon credit. And we need to protect it because not of the DRC and the entire world. Our peatland has the size of Great Britain, talking about 1100,000 kilometers square. And we need to really make sure that all those squares are really well protected. Behind we have the oil, and we have also the threat of having not serious company bidding under this oil to export the oil, not respecting the environment. This is true. The second threat is the growth of the population around the peatland. The peatland is very suitable to do agriculture for rice and plantain banana. So you have all the local people going there to dry the peatland to do agriculture on rice and plantain banana. So it was the president sees with his vision of protecting the world and having vision and climate, he gives an alternative on either exploiting oil or exploiting the natural-based solution on the peatland through the carbon credit. So at the moment, we are very proud to have this envelope for the country package of $60 million. That will help us to structure the business around the peatland. That's meaning giving alternative to the population around the peatlands, like green cooking, energy, sustainable agriculture, and also infrastructure. That will help them to sell their goods in the cities. So those are the 3 main things we're going to tackle to protect the peatlands, and that being very sustainable. We need to have company trusting in our peatland to purchase carbon credit on the peatlands. Because so far, there's no much technology that helps to develop carbon market on the wet soil. Because of now, all the companies are talking about only the dry soil of sequestration. But the stock there are less companies are being interested. So we are thinking of how we can sell those carbon credits under a mitigation process, because when you touch the pit, you're going to release the methane and the carbon emission. That could be very harmful for the entire world. So this is why the president really want to protect the peatland, and this is what the country package will be dedicated to. But the new climate economy in general, which is the vision of the president of the DRC, is to make the fight against climate change an opportunity of business, innovation, and creativity, and also bilateral win-win cooperation. This is why my role is very now settled in the DRC under the vision of the president. So we will like also under this country package is to de-risk our market, meaning we need to have the appropriate framework, and having all those northern company members of the FCLP pushing, lobbying behind the private sector to buy carbon credit in our different countries, especially in the DRC. And so far, this COP28 was a good result on the country package, and also on the tremendous interest of companies wanted to purchase the carbon credit on the peatland. It will be billion on billion on carbon credit on the peatland. I'm so happy we are talking about the biodiversity, which is a good initiative, but I don't want Africa to be distracted by biodiversity yet, because right now, carbon credit is paying. So we need to get that. We didn't even have, how can I say? We didn't even have the fair trade of the price, the fair trade of the amount of a company buying at our countries. So we want to start another discussion on biodiversity without having an important investment on carbon credit, that we know how it works, we know how we can make the high value price, especially if we talk together as an African country who have all the natural resources to be a response to the climate change. So here is also the call that my president made in the march of the UN nation to have the fair price of the carbon market, meaning we could choose from this scope to have a floor price of $30 in the voluntary market, which is the market having dominated in Africa so far, meaning that any company cannot come to purchase carbon credits behind $20 or $30 price. It depends on what the scientists will advise us. But we need to go through that. Otherwise, we will miss the trend of carbon credits the way we missed the trend of mineral resources. I'm from DRC, I know what I'm talking about. So we need to do it together as an African, as a nation, as a country, to find a solution, to wait on the negotiation. Secondly, we need to have this kind of appropriate way to negotiate through the fungibility of the regulated market. So we cannot have our forests that must be less priced or less important than the forests in US or in Belgium or in Paris. We should have all our forests playing the same role, having the same price of the $100 ton. So this also, we want northern countries here during this COP to understand we are in the same boat here. If they want to close this regulated market to us, we have the forest beside. We keep cutting the forest because we need to live. The population is very young and growing population. So we end up cutting the forest. And then the northern country with their new technology, new electric car, new energy, we all going to sink in the same boat. So it's a global approach that we need to tackle it globally to make it here. We are talking about finance. You know, the main issue of finance is risk management. But the risk of losing life is more higher than the risk of not managing well the finance. So we need to think, we are talking about people's life here. It's not a normal business. It's a business with the spirit of sustainable development, the spirit of next generation, and protecting our planet that we all need at the moment. So thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you for this testimony.
Special Presidential Envoy, Honorable Stephanie Mbombo, really speaking about a number of really pertinent and critical issues there, not only about peatlands, but the need for Africa to own the response for climate change, bringing down greenhouse gas emissions and carbon markets, seeing everything that we need to do as a business opportunity, bringing in innovation and seeing it as an opportunity to really do things with new thinking. Thank you very much for your very, very, just insightful remarks. Now, lastly, I want to invite to the podium for his opening remarks the founder and the CEO of Emergent, Mr. Aaron Bloomgarden. And he will share a statement on the LEAF Coalition and the Emissions Reductions Payment Agreement with Ghana. Aaron.
Thank you so much. It is really a pleasure to be here. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, friends, we know we need to accelerate finance, climate finance for forests, not only for 1.5, not only for our climate targets, but also for biodiversity, for nature, and of course for people and communities. So that's what this is about. I could not be more excited to be here for a variety of reasons. The first is, these countries that we're sitting with, Costa Rica and Ghana, which we are signing with an emission reduction purchase agreement, have been leaders really in REDD+ and forest conservation for a long time. And we are really very excited to be signing these first emission reduction purchase agreements, these first deals, transactions with the LEAF Coalition, with these two leading countries. Really, this is, I think, a ray of hope and a model for the rest of the world. And so I'd like to congratulate both Costa Rica and Ghana for these first trailblazing transactions with the LEAF Coalition. And of course, I'd like to thank you all for your personal leadership on these matters that we know of enormous global importance, and of course, your tireless work with the FCLP, and congratulations, of course, on the country package. This is truly an historic moment. REDD+ is not the idea of REDD+ is not a new idea. Some of us have been coming to COP for longer than we'd like to admit. I remember, 10 years ago, or even maybe 5 years ago, but when I started coming to COP nearly 20 years ago, forests were really not on the agenda as they are now. And nature was not on the agenda the way it is now. And so we've made a lot of progress now. It is on the agenda. It is front and center on the climate finance agenda, as well as the voluntary carbon market agenda. And that's really very important. We have a lot more we need to do. We know we need to scale this much faster and much larger. But this is a historic moment because what we're doing with LEAF is we're trying to bring the private sector buyers into jurisdictional REDD, so to access that climate finance. So very excited for that. And so I'd like to talk a little bit more about LEAF. So the LEAF Coalition is coordinated by Emergent. Emergent is a nonprofit. It recognizes that there is not one sector that can do this alone. Neither the public sector, the private sector, philanthropy. We all need to be working at the same objectives. And so what we've tried to do with LEAF is create a public-private partnership that mobilizes large-scale finance through purchase commitments for high-integrity jurisdictional REDD. And so we announced LEAF in Glasgow at COP26 with $1 billion of commitments from a coalition which now amounts to nearly 30 large multinational companies and 3 donor countries, which is the US, UK, and Norway. As we were designing LEAF, a few things. First of all, sometimes we get asked, well, why weren't host jurisdictions part of the design of LEAF? Well, there were conversations with host jurisdictions, but our premise was we need the demand signal. We need that pool of money that we can offer to the host jurisdictions. So so we started there. we realized that we need to change incentives on the ground to make nature worth more alive than dead. And so we've started with a floor price of $10 which is what we're at now. But when we launched that, that was double the market price for carbon. So we'd all like to see increasing pricing. So I want to hit that point. We also recognized some of the pitfalls in voluntary carbon markets. And if for those of you who are tracking, you'll know that voluntary carbon markets have come under some scrutiny recently. And so we've tried to build LEAF in such a way that has very high integrity and that can withstand that scrutiny. And we ensure that this is a win-win for, as I say, people and planet, for the host jurisdictions, which are the sellers, and the buyers. So what we did, we've created Emergent as a transparent nonprofit, right? Nobody's getting rich off of trading these credits. Second, the credits that are being purchased by corporates, if they resell them for more money, that money, any profit goes back to the host jurisdictions. So another important point. Third point, we exclusively are focused on jurisdictional red, meaning countries, working directly with countries. And that's really important for scale. We've heard it several times. If we're going to address this problem seriously, we need to get to scale. Fourth, we've created a coalition approach. So we've got, as I say, 30 companies coming together. They get confidence working with each other. They get confidence working with and validation working with the donor countries. And now, with these first two agreements, we're bringing in the host jurisdictions into this coalition, public-private partnership. So the coalition is really important. So we see massive potential to scale this going forward. This is really just the beginning. We're looking forward to this year negotiating forward-looking agreements, more with both Costa Rica and Ghana, hopefully potentially with DRC at some point in the future. We're bringing in more corporates. We want to raise that $1 billion number. We know we need 10 times that, 20 times that if we're going to solve this challenge. So thank you very much for your time. As the president of Ghana said yesterday, which I thought was very inspiring, we want this to be an example to the world of high integrity and rising tide for carbon markets that raises all boats. So let's continue to work together to make that a reality. And as the Honorable Minister said just now, the time is now. So thank you very much.
Aaron there telling us about how Ghana is an example to the world. Thank you so much for your very insightful and informative remarks. We're going to go on to questions. I will just present one question to each of our distinguished guests. If you don't mind, I want to start with you, Special Envoy Stephanie. How will the country package and on peatland, how will it support particularly indigenous people and local communities? And could you highlight, some key points on this? You can be. Do we need her to come to the podium? No. Yeah. The microphone's where?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, on the DRC, if you like to purchase carbon in a concession, you need to prove that you have consulted the community around the forest. You work with them to know what do they need to stop having forests like an income for their life. So they may tell you, we want schools, we want agriculture, we want energy, we want everything. So once you design the community, and then you can come with this project at the government to seek for a contract of conservation. So this country package will give an alternative life to the community. But here we have two community people around, the two autochthons, different people. We have those indigenous people who live in the peatlands for years and years before we all were been born. So they are the ones who protect the forest before us. They live in harmony with animals, with forests. They know how to protect the forest. So those are the people, they will stay there. We're not going to move them. But they are now in conflict with people from the also community, but in the city community. So those people, they don't know how to live with the forest. They're cutting trees, planting things that's going to destroy the forest. So how we manage their life differently. That's what we're going to do by giving them green energy. They don't need to cut the trees, giving them sustainable agriculture and then infrastructure. So the people in the pits, they will help us to build some medical research. They will help people, they will help us out to, because we just had a new law on indigenous people in the DRC to make their voice be heard, to develop with them. But to be honest with you, I met some of them. They have no clue of going to school or doing another thing than living in the forest. So we need to let them live in the forest, respecting them, and then associate them in the development, in the medicine, whatever that we like. So this is the kind of thing that the contract will do. That's will allow us to de-risk to de-risk the peatlands and have an alternative life for them. So the peatland will be intact. The other thing is all those companies, Chinese companies, subcontracting with people from the village, where they can cut the trees. What they do, because the peatland is white, they cut the tree during the dry season, and they leave the tree there. They're waiting when the rain will come. The tree will just follow the rain and then come onto the city. And they said to the Chinese people. So those kind of criminal action will also gonna have sufficient funds to tackle those issues in the peatlands. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Special Envoy Stephanie. So I'm going to come back to you, Aaron, and really just for you to provide some insights into the outlook for the EPRA, right? What are you particularly looking forward to? If you can project your voice. No, they won't be able to hear you because of our friends behind.
So what is the outlook for the ERPA? So an ERPA, for those who don't know, stands for an Emission Reduction Purchase Agreement. And that is the offtake agreement, the purchase and sale agreement between Emergent and the host country, so Ghana and Costa Rica in this instance. So we're signing it now. And so what needs to happen now, and what's already worked, what the countries are working towards, is going through the ART trees process. So the architecture for red transactions is the standard that the credits will be verified to. And so that process will need to be completed over the next several months. There needs to be a verification of the reductions. And so once the verification happens, the credits will be issued into the account of Ghana. And then we will make payment to the countries based on the amount of credits that are issued. From there, and starting right now, we're also looking at working towards the next ERPA with both Ghana and Costa Rica, looking forward into future years. Thanks.
I think we're also looking forward to the payment in Ghana. So thank you so much, Aaron, for that. Honourable Minister, I'm going to end with you with a question on the voluntary carbon markets. So how can the voluntary carbon markets be strengthened to generate even yet more finance?
So thank you very much. First of all, I think that my sister from DRC and our friend from Emergent, and as well as the Costa Rican Minister for Environment, and myself, I mean, we are all agreeable to the importance of forest and nature-based climate action and how it can help us in coming to grips with this existential threat of climate change. I mean, we are told, for example, that forest and nature-based climate action has a potential of contributing a third to halting climate change. And indeed, from Sharm el-Sheikh, from Glasgow, when we launched the Glasgow Leadership Declaration on forest and land use, to Sharm el-Sheikh, when we outdoored the landmark Forest and Climate Leadership Partnership, FCLP, and to here, Dubai, where we are having a stock-taking conference, and where forest and nature-based climate action has become a central feature of the discussions here. Climate financing generally, but forest and nature-based climate financing in particular has become very consequential. And high-integrity voluntary carbon markets is proving to be one of the effective tools through which we can generate enough financing to support the fight against climate change generally, but for my purpose, and I believe for all our purposes, how to fund nature-based climate action. And I think that one of the key areas we have to look at when it comes to high-integrity voluntary carbon market is pricing. My sister from DRC is spoken about that extensively, and I think that it's important that we take a critical look at pricing. A ton of carbon dioxide, how much is it being paid for? How is it the case that a ton of carbon dioxide, which is reduced in Africa, is being priced lower than a ton of carbon dioxide, which is reduced in, say, the Western world or the Eastern world? And I think that those disparities must be resolved. I think it's absolutely important. And also, the whole legislative and policy framework which governs this carbon market is absolutely important. I get people knock on my door on a daily basis that they want to trade in carbon. They want to trade in carbon credits. And how is it done? What is the framework? What is the law? What is the policy? And so on and so forth. We have to spend a lot more money to build that area, to build that framework, which will make the trading much more easier. And I want to say that we bring our program almost to the end, and I'll use this opportunity to thank very sincerely my sister from DRC, who is the special envoy of the president of DRC on climate change, for coming, and Aaron, who is founder and leader of Emergent, and to say to Aaron that we've signed a letter of intent. We signed a letter of intent in Glasgow. Last year, we did some great work on it, and this year in Dubai, we are signing a binding agreement. But please, let's cap it. But Aaron, I have a year to go as minister. Let's unlock the money whilst I'm still a minister. It's absolutely important. I really crave your indulgence on that. And even though my colleague had to leave as the Costa Rican Minister for Environment and Forestry, we thank him very much for his attendance, and to say that we should work together in a very collaborative manner. And if we do so, we will unleash nature-based climate action to help the noble global effort at halting climate change. Thank you all, and thank you very much for coming. Thank you indeed.
Honourable Minister, thank you so much for your closing remarks as well, and for your insightful responses on the carbon market. There is going to be an official photograph, so I would ask that you all please stay on the podium.